everyone. Welcome to the Canadian Passive Investing Show. I'm your host, 𝗖𝗽𝗶 𝗖𝗽, and I'm joined by my co-host, August Biniaz. We have another exciting show for you today. Please like and subscribe as it helps us build our channel and allows us to keep bringing you great content and expert guest speakers. Our mission is to empower investors to earn passive income through real estate investing. Today, we are joined by Jennifer Hunt. Jennifer Hunt is a national real estate investment expert, a former vice president with the Real Estate Investment Network, and now chief intelligence officer at the Real Estate Wealth Lab, a boutique intelligence agency, and CEO of Ventures with Adventures, offering lifestyle real estate investing programs. Now, we believe this interview with Jennifer Hunt will bring great value to both active and passive investors looking to learn from an expert veteran of real estate investments. Welcome, Jennifer.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm absolutely delighted, and I love working with you and getting to know you better as well. So this will be a fantastic opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Amazing. Jennifer, please tell us about your background and your start in real estate.
Well, I have a very similar story about real estate and starting out. It was a number of years ago. So in 2009, I was laid off. And that was, I had intended to be with the same company for the rest of my life. It was my main first, organization that I had been with. And all of a sudden, my financial security was at risk. That was my only source of income. That was, my belief was that I would be with that company for a very long time. And all of a sudden, I felt extremely vulnerable. And as a result, I did all the things that we do when these kinds of occurrences occur in our lives. And I got great support from friends and was introduced to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I started out reading that book. And the minute I read the initial book, it changed my life. And I recognized that there were other ways to have financial income coming in from different streams and the power of real estate. And that's really what whet my appetite. And that's when I started learning and being educated and attending all kinds of seminars, listening to YouTube channel wasn't so big back then. It's almost at the beginnings of the internet, but just the same. So that attending seminars, attending groups, going to that type of thing, and just learning about real estate, and then getting into action really, really quickly, and grew my portfolio from basically just my own house to 50 units within 3 years.
Wow.
Incredible. At this stage, did you end up using any mentors or any, advising groups? What did that journey look like? Because I'm sure a lot of people watching might be in that stage where, because of COVID and other situations, they feel like the same kind of story that you said, that their, income might be affected or it has been affected, and they're looking for alternative source of income alongside what they're currently doing. So tell us about what was the first step you took when you talk about action?
Yeah, I attended the Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminars, and then I also took personal and business development courses as well. So I've got a master's degree in communications, and I figured, that doesn't have the greatest return on investment. It's okay, but real estate does. And I wanted to do it right. I wanted to get myself the business acumen, financial awareness. I started heading up even volunteer work with like being on the board of directors for organizations to get better financial and business acumen, and then eventually ended up being on the board of the Association of Women in Finance, again, to create scholarships for women to get into finance. I was a little unusual there because in terms of real estate as opposed to just the financial industry, if you will. But what I was wanting to do is to help individuals understand that if you're in real estate, you own a business, and having that acumen is so important. So I didn't necessarily get a specific coach or mentor, but I got lots of support around me, and just taking action.
Yep, you took it
seriously. Now that means I made mistakes.
Yes. You took it seriously. You were very proactive. Now, at this time, where are you at the time when this takes place? Where are you geographically located at that time?
Vancouver, British Columbia.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. Vancouver is synonymous with real estate and real estate investing. It
Yeah.
seems to be a real estate investing city, a hub. So
Yeah, absolutely.
excellent.
All right, on to the next question. Jennifer, I was just wondering, could you tell us about your involvement with RAIN? August recalls being at RAIN events and your sprightly presence on stage.
Well, thank you. I do. I appreciate that very much. I do like to bring energy to some of the topics that I cover. So I was with the Real Estate Investment Network for 5 years on the executive team as a vice president of research primarily, and events for some period of time, but mostly research. And through there, I menteed, if you will, with Don Campbell, who's the best-selling author in Canada on how to invest in real estate. And I truly studied all of the materials that are out there. And I am a complete geek. I am a nerd, and that's okay. Someone's got to do it. And so I really enjoyed spending the time learning about systems and learning about particularly the real estate cycle. And that's where I really found a niche. I recognized that there were some nuances with the real estate cycle. So a real estate cycle, just for those who are listening, before I get really deep into this, is just a business cycle for real estate. So, is it an expansion phase, or is it in a contraction phase, or is it stabilizing? Same as business, same as many things. And as I started to uncover and really apply all of my research, so I apply everything and I test it, because why not? And I've got the portfolio to do that with. So I test things out. And with the real estate cycle, I started to recognize that it was missing some pieces. So last June, so June 2021, and this is how geeky I am and how research and analyzing and coming up with formulas and unpacking studies so that other real estate investors don't have to, and that they can be most informed and whatnot. Last June, it was the middle of the night, rose from my bed and got it. I just got it, a brand new real estate cycle formula. And I realized the importance of bringing in different indicators, a whole bunch of different indicators that are leading and lagging, and a new relationship with how they interplay. What that does is it allows for really getting a sense of what I call reverberation, because there are so many factors at play that it doesn't, so economic, health, jobs, population, those are three, and I know you're very well versed in this, those are three leading indicators that are very important for predicting, for forecasting our rental markets and our real estate properties, our property prices.
Yeah.
However, they don't just work like this. What we need to do is really understand, okay, population trends might happen first. Inflation wasn't even something that was considered before. So bringing in all of these added indicators and expanding on them. And that's where I am today, is and making it technologically savvy as well.
Yes. Now that kind of answered our next question, but I'll touch on it a bit more. Obviously we've noticed that you've been, you're very analytic, data-driven approach to real estate investing, just like you were mentioning. Tell us about the importance of data, metrics, analytics when making a profitable real estate investment. How important it is, because sometimes people just buy a piece of property because it's fashionable, or buy a condo downtown. Talk to us about, we know obviously on the institutional level, data and metrics and analytics are the most important factors. There's no really emotion or there's no emotion really involved. But talk to us about the importance, and can retail investors, can everyday real estate investors use these types of data to make smart real estate investments?
Oh, this warms my heart. So thank you for asking the question. I'll start with my very first real estate investment property back when I was right out of the first course, went in to buy a property. And there was all in the background, there was a little bit of a conversation about market, where market. But it's not a normal conversation, or economics or macroeconomics. No, I want to buy property and I want to buy it now. So I bought a duplex in a terrible neighborhood, it's a fine city now, but it was a terrible neighborhood, not in the right location, not in the right city. and it had terrible tenants. I mean, the whole thing was just misery. and at the time, I, as a newbie investor, and there's so those of you who are just starting out, when you hear these conversations of economics or GDP or growth, or as you were saying, August, institutional investors are looking at these metrics, just take pause and let it sink in and start to understand what that means before taking action. Because that property, I mean, I ended up being successful because over time, but it could have been a way different story had I slowed down and gone, okay, what do I need to understand about the market? And so what is very important to me is helping individuals not repeat the same mistakes that I have and many others. I mean, even just yesterday, an incredibly successful business person that I know just sort of randomly mentioned, oh, you know what, I just sold my property in this amazing appreciating location and bought 4 houses in which I understand the principles, in a location that's got population that is exiting like crazy because it's cheap. So if you hear the word cheap, real estate, that's really something that you want to take stock of, step back and come talk to me. Come to the Real Estate Wealth Lab and get a lot of data. But I'd like to add another layer to that, because it's one thing to have sort of real estate cycle formulas, and it's one thing to have market analysis. But there's also, and I'm gonna come into macroeconomics. And I can't stress how important this is, because politics, yes, politicians, doesn't matter what kind they are, they implement policies, they implement laws, and those laws often have some form of effect on our businesses, on our real estate, on the city, and it can be at the municipal, at the provincial,
even lower than that, at a property level where you got a strata. That is your politicians within the strata. They make a decision on that building. That's going to affect the building's prices, a type of tenant demographic. But keep going, please, Jennifer.
100%. And in fact, I was just experiencing that this week at a strata meeting, and getting on the board is absolutely essential. And knowing those politics and whatnot. So you've nailed it right on the head, and knowing all of those levels, because any particular decision at any moment could impact your real estate. And that is a lot to take into consideration. That's a lot to stay on top of. And that's one of my master's degree in communications is my thesis. And don't worry, this will come full circle. My thesis is the impact of, well, first of all, it was U.S. news, sensationalism in U.S. news, and if it has gotten more sensational over time. The clear answer to that was a resounding yes, based on the research, but more importantly, it was also its effect on democracy. Now, you might think, okay, that's a bit of a stretch. But what that means for us as real estate investors is that I'm uniquely positioned and uniquely qualified to go, that headline is bogus. That's a sensational headline. Let's understand what that headline is. I mean, and understand what the story is, and then let's get into the actual meat and potatoes of the study that maybe it's talking about, and then even question the individual. So and then what does that mean for real estate investors, so that you don't have to, because you're going to hear in the news. Have you heard any of those crazy headlines?
Absolutely.
About, oh, rent control this, or whatever the headline it could be, and how it affects us. And so I'm absolutely passionate about delivering that to real estate investors. So I save them time, I save them money, and most importantly, I think, maybe not most importantly, but certainly importantly, is to save them stress.
Right.
Because the news out there is stressful, and it's like, that's bogus. And actually, at my last research lab, where I provide research at the Real Estate Wealth Lab, it was fascinating. And I know a lot of economists, like chief economists, and I've worked with them. They're on my phone and whatnot. And there's a current market consensus statement that's going on out there in the media and in the chief economists for a lot of financial institutions, and it doesn't actually makes sense. And that's with regard to inflation. And so I really took it on and looked back at the theories like Milton Friedman from the 1970s and got into it and just to ask the questions of the statement is inflation is important to real estate investors. And I know that that's not why we're here to talk, what we're here to talk about today, but just to give a sense of it is inflation is really important to real estate investors because our real estate typically outpaces inflation. So it's a very good investment to be in turbulent times and in inflationary times for multiple reasons.
Absolutely, it's a hedge against inflation. But then on the reverse, inflation causes issues with the rental, right? With the rent income. But tell us a little bit more about what you were saying.
It can support rental income too. You got to watch out for rent control areas, but there's still opportunities for your rents to increase with inflation as well. Yes. But overall, yes, the market consensus currently from a number of chief economists from financial institutions are saying that inflation will disappear by the end of 2022.
Transitory.
Yeah, right? And based on absolute fundamental economics, it's not possible. Now, maybe 30 years of 40 years or so of amazing economic theories and things like that no longer apply, but I believe that they do. And inflation is here for a while to stay. And the ways to impact it will feel challenging. And no matter which way we choose, unfortunately, right now, whether the governments, which is our governments, choose to print more money, which is the only cause of inflation. Full stop. Supply chains, all of that narrative they don't matter, because if you go back to the actual originating source of inflation, it is only printing money and distributing it to households and having them spend it. So it's monetary supply and M2, which is monetary velocity. See, I get really geeky, but why does this matter to real estate investors? And it matters because we need to be preparing for the long run. We need to be preparing that interest rates will be going up, because that's basically the only lever to bring down inflation. We need to be buying real estate right now because inflation will be around. And it's one of the best assets outpacing inflation.
Great. Let's talk about this very important aspect, because you bring up a wonderful point. Let's talk about strategies. Let's see here. Yeah, this is a great question, I think, that comes up here. Because you're talking about buy real estate. It's a great time. Inflation is here to stay. It's not transitory. I believe in most of the items that you mentioned. I believe also real estate is a great hedge against inflation. Now, talk to us about, please, if you want, Ava, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. As you've been around real estate investors for years now, maybe you can tell us about some of the most profitable strategies you've seen investors utilizing.
Well, how about I do one better and tell you, rather than what I've seen them do, but rather what I've researched are the best.
Nice.
So, and I have a whole presentation on this actually, because so real estate in general it typically is stable during these kinds of turbulent times. However, I've done a further study on multifamily in particular. And I don't know of any, and I know that that's your sweet spot. So, but multifamily typically has the least impact on their rents and their values during turbulent times. So I guess it's economies of scale. It's having a number of apartments, a number of units under one roof, or a larger risk mitigating factor. So if one thing goes, the same old stories of, a single family, of course, if one person doesn't pay rent, that's 100%. Yes. So by having a larger building, and I've primarily had multifamily for years, and and again, during all of this, there was huge shift, even for institutional investors. And I had the fortune of being in the room with a number of very significant players in the game early on in the early days of the March 2020, so when the pandemic restrictions were imposed. And the initial conversations that they had, I mean, these are big players in terms of industrial, commercial, office space, and every single one of them said, I wish I had more multifamily. Our portfolio has been performing in the, not underperforming, pardon me, it just didn't have enough multifamily in order to sort of mitigate their risks. And they all said that they were going on a buying spree for the long term. So, you know, success leaves clues, and you folks are doing the same. So multifamily is definitely the number one strategy. However, I would say, not however, and I would suggest that all real estate is it's good. And I mean, yes, there's going to be ebbs and flows. I knew that, for example, I think it was so a little bit further along when the restrictions and people were moving out of the downtown cores and whatnot. I think it was sort of December 2020. And I knew that condos downtown were going to go through a little bit of maybe not a shock, but a softening in their prices. And my forecast was 18 months from now, the following year to winter, you buy before then, because Millennials, I call them actually, so young millennials and older Gen Zs, they're more of a purchasing demographic, so I call them Millennials. Okay. They're going to see all these condos downtown on sale. Yeah. And whoosh, and sure enough, the condos came back. So, and they will continue to do so as, you know, restrictions are lifted and things like that. But so, you know, whether you're into condos or you're into single family or you're into multifamily or somewhere in between, or even vacation homes, there's a huge opportunity to just be in the market. And there's other reasons and factors for that. And, you know, inflation is one, but I look at about 80 factors when I look at a market, and I look at 25 indicators when I look at a real estate cycle.
And that's really cool that you talk about that, because I wanted to actually touch on this. Yeah, so unlike the US, right, where data is very easily accessible through CoStar and Yardi and other many, I think there's many other data generating platforms. Canada doesn't have many platforms which provide this information. So how do you go about generating, you know, you just mentioned there's 25 key metrics that you look at. How do you go about generating this
Not
information
only generating,
in Canada?
but also researching it. You can't just go on a site and have everything sent out to you. How do you go about, because that turns you into a researcher, and it seems like with your background and, you know, having a master's degree, you're somewhat of a researcher already. Talk to us about how do you go about getting this information to then make your predictions.
80 that you mentioned, and then 25 that you really
I know. Well, you know, I'm going to actually open that conversation up to the US a little bit as well, because I know there's CoStar, and as you mentioned, Yardi, and there's a number of other pretty amazing research platforms. However, for potentially the average or for the mom and pops, those are a little bit more pricey to be, you know, to access. So for institutional investors or for folks who are, you know, fully in the game, those are excellent sources. However, for, you know, those who are just like, oh, I want to have a condo in Florida and a place in Hawaii and a little place in Arizona,
they're not going to spend the money.
It's cost prohibitive. You know, and Oxford economics is fantastic, but again, the subscription is pretty substantial for the average individual. So, in other words, it kind of applies to the US market as well. And how do I get that information? Well, I do have a research team, and a lot of it is manual. It is digging and digging deep. I don't stop. I've actually even, when I was researching a town, and I say town because it was very small, and I actually called. It's not a place that I would recommend. It got the no go, but I wanted to, you know, do the research and whatnot. And it was a mining town. It really only had one mine kind of as the main go-to. The cap rates on multifamilies were out of this world, which is a red flag for risk. So I actually called the mine.
Okay.
And I said, how many years of reserves do you have in your mine? 13. Okay, cool. So I know that this multifamily apartment building that I'm looking at is not going to have customers in 13 years when the mine shuts down or whatever have you. So sustainability, diversity of economics and economy. But I've also created and this is where it gets extra geeky, proxy data. So if data does not exist, it's common in statistics and economics and researching to develop data points that are proximate to what you're trying to, relevant to what you're trying to accomplish, but aren't actually it. So for example, identifying GDP in a small town, that data is tough. Right. So there's a series of questions that I ask and I rate, and I weight them. So rate and weight them to determine, okay, is the economy growing or is it contracting? And then continue down that path.
Incredible.
Great.
And that leads us to the Real Estate Wealth Lab. Let's talk about what is the Real Estate Wealth Lab? What is its mission, its vision, and its mandate? And how did this idea come about?
Wonderful. Well, thank you. So the Real Estate Wealth Lab, gosh, it initiated and began with a number of real estate investors who, we were all sort of at this level going, how do I become an issuer? What's the next level issuer in terms of having an offering, and in terms of being, robust with our securities and making sure that we're doing everything right? How do we play a bigger game? And a number of individuals who are my Real Estate Wealth Lab team collaborated with me and said, you know what, we think that it's time to create something for next level investors. So additional research, even more bold, uncensored, untethered kind of my true analysis. So being bold in that regard, and then giving them exactly what they need for that next level conversation. And so that's how it germinated. And then the other components, we are a boutique real estate intelligence agency. And we've also created a lot of products like calculators and all of these components that for sophisticated and even, and this is where we've gotten to now, is even for individuals who are just starting out, these kinds of calculators can completely change your game. And I'm going to tell you a story about that in a second. But I want to rewind is that we're also about technology, and I'm so excited and delighted. Our technology team is absolutely incredible, and we're marrying in a very robust way some amazing artificial intelligence. And I'm not the tech person. So if I say something wrong here about artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of these things with my real estate cycle formula, with all of the indicators and the proxy data that I've developed, and putting that all together into something that will be so powerful for individuals. So that's coming down the pipeline. But in the interim, so back to the calculators. Have you ever tried to raise money and go on, whether it's a big scale or a little scale, and I've got a spreadsheet? Have you ever done that, you guys?
Yes.
Like at any point?
I have.
Yeah, a spreadsheet. Yeah. Okay. Cool. How did that go for you?
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
And we ended up getting a HubSpot, which then in turn has more that we could incorporate and everything else.
Super expensive.
CRM, and incorporate all these different things. Yeah, spreadsheets are okay. They're not anywhere close to what it should be.
Exactly. So, and I am a spreadsheet. This is not a name that I came up with by myself. Somebody else named me, and it kind of stuck, a spreadsheet goddess. And I love spreadsheets for sure. However, they aren't for everyone, and they shouldn't be for everyone. And so they really should be what drives behind the scenes. So I've created all of these spreadsheets, and this is how my brain works, and our team, and who are next level investors as well. And what we've done is we've taken them and put them into calculators, so that when you're trying to explain an opportunity, or you want to showcase your opportunity in a pitch deck, in a presentation, you're not showing the spreadsheet, you're showing an elegant, beautiful report that's just really quick. Here's your numbers. Of course, your next level, you get it, you can do your spreadsheet. But I can tell you, I don't want to be showing that to my mom or my dad or to my investors and then get them lost in a formula, And so that's really, so that's where for those who are starting out or next level, yeah, you might have your own ways of doing your analysis and your own spreadsheets for sure. And we want to help you so that you can create an elegant presentation and start to, raise capital in a more elegant solution. So
That's really
lots
cool.
of different things on the go.
That's really cool. I'd love to
Amazing.
see that. That's really cool.
Awesome.
Good for
Awesome.
you.
We'll switch the conversation a little bit here.
Yeah.
I got to give a quick story. We want to get into the company that you founded, Ventures with Adventures. But let me ask you a quick question and give a quick story. So in the last few years, as 𝗖𝗽 and I have become, trying to attempt to become real estate thought leaders in our niche market of, multifamily syndication or real estate private equity. We've been creating a lot of content. And in the process, I've connected with a lot of, individuals who want to start their careers in real estate, want to start investing, want to learn more, or also personal development items. And a lot of times they come to me because the success they've seen us having, and they come to me for advice. And this is not monetized by any means. I'm happy to give my time to a lot of people coming up. But what I always start with, I advise is, before we go and, put in a plan for, your business journey and what steps to take, let's start out with your perfect day. Look at me or look at your life and tell me, what does your perfect day look like? And what I mean by that, going as granular in what time you wake up, where are you living, where do you work, what does the setting looks like, what time do you go to sleep, all these questions, where are you located? And when I mean by perfect day, a day that you can repeat as many times as possible for the rest of your life. What would be the perfect day that you could repeat as many times as possible? When you come up with that perfect day, then we'll go back and build your life backwards. Because if you tell me, hey, I want to be successful, I want to be worth $100 million in the next 10 years. Yes, we can try to put those plans in place, but that might include you working 12-hour days and being in, a certain downtown core of a metropolitan city where it doesn't allow you to live the life you want to live. And what's the point? A lot of times the question is asked from a lot of people on their deathbed, and the consensus is like, what would you do differently in life? And they say, I wouldn't have worked as hard. So, going by those logic, it seems like, Jennifer, that you seem, I assume that you're currently in Hawaii, and also assume that you're remotely doing a lot of stuff that you're currently doing. So it seems to me that maybe you've gone using my blueprint, unbeknownst to you, using my blueprint, which is starting with your perfect day, and then mixing in your career with your perfect day. Talk to us about this dynamic, and at some point we'll make the transition to Ventures with Adventures.
Well, wonderful. And we are on the same page, my friends, 100%. I began thinking about this concept actually 10 years ago, oh my word, 12 years ago now. And it's when I did a personal development workshop, and in that, it was about how do you get the life of your dreams? And now I love your question, by the way, of what is your perfect day and repeating it. For me, I also begin a little bit with the question of, if you can imagine your life completely unconstrained, with anything that you wanted would appear as if by magic, what would it look like? Who would you be with? Where would you be? What are the hobbies? And going through a series of questions like that to start with the end in mind. And then working backwards from that, I may or may not have created a spreadsheet. It's a beast, but it's beautiful. And it really identifies where you are now, where that lifestyle that you've just sort of described, how much it might cost, and then what that would cost, and put in a budget and all of the things, and then how to get there based on where you are currently, and then what real estate may be able to do for you down the road, and then accelerating that to now. So I live my life by design. It's very important to me, and that's really what came rise. And it's important to me, but it's important to me to bring my friends with me, to bring others with me. This is not just a Jennifer Hunt journey. This is about, how do I help support as many people as possible living the life, just like you were saying, August, and how you're, coaching individuals. What does that look like? And I developed a financial planning workshop for individuals, and I started getting a whole bunch of girlfriends, hey, can you walk me through this? And I'm like, wow, of course I can, and I want to. but I can't do all of it all at once. So for my birthday, instead of celebrating that way, I had a whole bunch of girlfriends over and walked them through the worksheet, just a light version, but you know, the presentation, getting them in the thought process, writing out their math. And many of them expressed the desire to live and have vacations in lots of different locations and backed by real estate. And I knew that this model would work, and I wanted to make it as accessible as possible, because I think it's really important, and it's another way to be in real estate and live life by design. And so when it comes to, for example, having your finances, you can only have so much in one particular project. So having different avenues where you can, again, have diversification of your geography, of politics, of asset types, of asset classes, and even of personal use, that to me was a real a winning solution.
Great. So tell us about Ventures with Adventures. Talk to us about what you've created and how can somebody get involved, and tell us more about it, please.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, so it's a vacation lifestyle program. I think maybe broadly, just to get people into the mindset, many people are aware of timeshares. Many people are aware of, you know, these sort of shared vacation kind of companies. And so if you can wrap your head around that, it's kind of like that, but it's not. So just to be really clear, it is a vacation lifestyle program, and essentially it's having your vacation properties work for you so that you can experience more adventures while building wealth. Okay. And creating an asset and a legacy that you can create traditions in, and have them, you know, willed to or gifted to others, and really just having a fantastic time. Now, behind the scenes on the adventures, because there's really two lines of business. So one is the ventures, which is more this sort of real estate aspect of it, and getting the vacations to work for you so that you get to have more of them while still building your real estate portfolio, which is very cool. And then on the other side is adventures line of business, which is really about, so individuals like different kinds of vacations. Mm-hmm. So if you want an all-inclusive in your own vacation property, those services can be implemented, because many people love all-inclusive. Chefs, you know, luxury, don't lift a finger, we plan your vacations for you entirely. Mm-hmm. Literally you arrive and it's all handled. Others like to do it themselves, and then that's fine. So we've got a whole suite of services, concierge, lifestyle services, equipment rentals, etc., as well as activities and tours that go along with that. And something that is, I think, important, because it'll be a fun component to look at down the way, and I'll get back to life by design. Mine includes sailing and bringing people on sailing adventures. And so from 2008, it was 2008, I got my initial captain's license, and started these tours, you know, just with friends and whatnot. But I've recently, you know, progressed and got my international captain certificate, and now my instructor certificate, so that I can really create wonderful adventures, you know, in Greece or in Croatia. There's British Virgin Islands, Spain, Ibiza. That was postponed, but all these kinds of experiences and adventures, the individuals. So for example, maybe they don't want to stay at their home away from home. Mm-hmm. They can allocate and come on a sailing trip, for example. So there's lots of really cool flexibilities and ways to grow and expand the company and the offering.
Help people live life to the fullest. That's really cool.
Yes.
Amazing. And receive cash flow while you're doing it.
While you're doing it.
Exactly. Having it's really a usage program. So it's absolutely lifestyle real estate investing. And I've recently developed a pretty cool presentation that explains lifestyle real estate investing. It explains lifestyle investing. And real estate investing is just, in terms of lifestyle, is just one component of it. And it's been really cool to see the impact of individuals going, because one of my mottos is, I hate wasted assets. So that means, you know, the yacht, it means the camper van for some, it means, you know, all of these things. And when we start to look at life like that, and our assets and our experiences of how to not waste them, people have been really freed up really quickly in terms of that life by design now, while still building their wealth.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Okay,
Awesome. Really appreciate all the wisdom you shared with us. And I'm sure our viewers and listeners will also enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Now it's time to move on to the next segment of our show.
10 championship rounds to financial freedom.
All right.
Okay, so whatever comes top of mind, here we go. Who is the most influential person in your life?
Oh, my dad.
Okay, very good. Amazing. Okay, next question. What is the number one book you'd recommend?
Well, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was very important to me because it changed and shifted my mind. I read a lot of political books and economics books. So, but I don't think that that's necessarily, I think I'll say Rich Dad, Poor Dad because that's gotten me where I am today.
Incredible.
Yeah. So.
Okay, Jennifer, if you had the opportunity to travel back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Ooh. Oh, well, how much time do we have, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
You know, I was always an A student and an A employee and exceeds in my performances and all of that stuff. And I would have said to myself to really think about the return on investment that I'm giving to institutions or I'm giving to my study. Hey, I'm all a proponent of school, by the way. Okay, that's good. But just look at the ROI, the return on investment, and look at the return on investment for where you're giving your time and who you're giving your time to, and check in with that on a regular basis. So that's what I would suggest. And then that would then bring me to making more choices that would align me with business acumen, because I think that that's something that I shouldn't say. I think it's something that gets overlooked, particularly in, the public school education. I mean, it's just, how to pay your taxes. I don't remember that course. Do you?
No.
I remember grade 9 consumer ed, how to write a check, but like not to balance my checkbook, Exactly. So that financial literacy early on and getting it.
Nice. Okay, Jennifer, what's the best investment you've ever made?
Oh, the best investment, without being a cliche, is definitely in myself.
Nice.
Yeah, personal development. I took this course.
Okay.
I'm not going to say how many decades ago, but yeah, decades ago. And it was recently brought up again and again, and listening. Okay, I do remember that, but I don't really remember it. So I, again, just invested in, the book and I'll be reading it and implementing it. So us always learning, that is number one. And then I guess from a real estate perspective, the best investment. Well, my very, very best investment was my first real estate deal in Hawaii, 12 years ago.
Oh, nice.
And it changed my life.
Amazing. So now, what's the worst investment you've ever made, and what lessons have you learned from it?
They've all ended up being okay, so that's nice. But the worst one was probably that first duplex when I really did it. It was cheap. So the good news is that the risk wasn't too great at that time, for me. So that's
and you learn lots from it. A lot of times,
I learned a lot.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
that's an investment within itself. When you learn lots from a small loss, or if you even break even, right?
Lessons learned.
Well put. Yeah, exactly. Very well put.
All right. How much would you need in the bank to retire today? What's your number?
That's funny because the spreadsheet in my head doesn't have numbers. It has properties and mortgages.
And cash flow,
probably.
And cash flow, yeah. So what changed my life a number of years ago was a spreadsheet that I created, and it was to understand what my real estate was really capable of in creating my life. And so it included the cash flow. It also included the mortgage amount and the amortization, like the term of when it would be paid off. And then I started to look at it and how much I had left on my various mortgage terms and whatnot. And it completely changed my relationship to debt. Mortgage debt, to just be very clear. Yeah. So what that did is it really shifted. So, and then it's a matter of, okay, just keep them. I'm good. And at that moment I knew, okay, with this portfolio, I've got what I need. And the weight, the relief was so palpable. And that's what I want for other individuals. So the actual number is, I guess, what I'd like on a monthly basis for retirement. It doesn't need to be that much, but rather around to the $12,000 a month.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Next question. If you could have dinner with someone dead or alive, who would it be?
Interesting. I would like to get inside the head. I can't believe I'm going to say this. This would, oh, no, I probably shouldn't actually. I was about to get political. So I you know what? I won't, because I'm just really curious about some, yes. So I won't say that. That one's just currently. You know what? I would love it. Again, many people are inspired by her, but having a conversation with Oprah and seeing how the mindset that amazing individual has been able to create for herself and the obstacles she's overcome, and the tools that she used in order to get to her level of success, but also her level of care, compassion, and influence. Because for me, I'm not about the success. I'm interested in the success, but my success is intended to improve, to help, to support our society and peace in the world.
Amazing. Now, Jennifer, if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing now?
Like right this moment?
No,
I would be swimming in the ocean right now. I mean,
career-wise, lifestyle-wise, maybe a sailor. You're already doing that a bit.
Oh yeah, you know, that would be a pretty amazing and rewarding lifestyle for sure. Very different and completely off. If I were completely in a different level, I would be doing analysis a little bit more on the side, and I would be doing more physical kinds of things.
Nice. Okay.
Mobility in work and career is very important, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So, book smarts or street smarts?
Oh, book smarts.
I've got a little bit of street cred too. I've been around the block, but awesome. Okay. Last question. If you had $1 million cash and you had to make one investment today, what would it be?
So it's got to be $1 million cash.
Yeah.
You can only make one investment and you have to make it today. You have to deploy that capital today. What would it be?
I would, oh, look at me. I can't just answer that.
Negotiating. You're negotiating.
Right. So am I allowed to partner with others, or is it literally like, do I get to have a mortgage? Like, what are the parameters here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, mortgage definitely. Partnering with others might make it a bit more complicated because it's got to be something that you're deploying right away, but potentially talk to us about it. Sure. Tell us a couple of different options.
Yeah, well, quite frankly, I think the real estate private equity situation, working with other individuals, collaborating, doing value add to multifamily, which is what I've done for a decade now. It's tried, tested, and true. And so I would do something along those lines, and definitely in a sunny location.
Amazing. Awesome. Perfect. Jennifer. That was great. That was awesome. Really appreciate all the wisdom you gave us.
And now, Jennifer, what's the best way people can reach you?
Oh, thank you for asking. So at the Real Estate Wealth Lab, we actually have a 30-day free trial. So please reach out to us. We'd love for you to come and check us out. No strings attached. You can just come and hang out. We actually have an event today. Oh, it doesn't matter because this will be aired at different times, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes.
So it's realestatewealthlab.com. So that's the website. And then also for Ventures with Adventures, yeah, if you want your vacation working for you and your real estate working for your vacation, please check us out. We're at so yourvwa.com, yourvwa.com.
I
Nice.
love it.
Awesome.
Amazing, Jennifer. You're so incredible. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Well, thank you again for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.